All right, so let's dive into something that seems to be like everywhere these days, shamanism.
Yeah.
It feels like every day there's like a new retreat or workshop or even a celebrity talking about like,
Right.
ayahuasca or something like that. But the funny thing is if you ask like 10 people what shamanism actually is, you'd probably get 10 different answers.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There's a lot of mystery and a lot of confusion surrounding it. And
Right.
for some people, it conjures up these images of, people in trance-like states talking to spirits.
Yeah.
It's no wonder that there are some pretty strong opinions out there.
Exactly. So for this deep dive, we're going to try to get past the stereotypes
Yeah.
and explore what researchers and anthropologists who've actually spent years studying shamanism have to say. Are
Exactly.
you ready to unpack this ancient mystery?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Yeah.
I think a good place to start is with the word shaman itself.
Okay.
Did you know that it comes from the Tungus people of Siberia?
I did not.
And get this. It means one who is excited, moved, raised.
Excited, moved, raised.
Pretty intense, right?
Yeah. It's a pretty loaded term. It doesn't really tell us what they do, though, does it?
You're right. It's more of a starting point, I guess.
Yeah.
But there's these fascinating theories about, like, the deeper origins of the word.
Okay.
Some scholars think that it might be connected to, like, an ancient Indian word meaning to heat oneself. Others point to a Tungus verb meaning to know.
Okay.
It's like the name itself is hinting at these really intense practices and this deep knowledge
Yeah.
that shamans are known for.
Okay, so we're talking about more than just like a healer or a medicine man, right?
Yeah.
There's something more.
Yeah, what sets shamans apart from other types of healers is this unique ability to interact with spirits,
Okay.
but in a controlled way.
Interesting.
This isn't just about, like, being possessed by spirits. This is about actively journeying to other realms, communicating with entities, even negotiating with them.
Hold on. Journeying to other realms. That's where it starts to sound like Lord of the Rings or something.
It might sound fantastical, but this journeying is absolutely central to shamanism.
Okay.
Early anthropologists were really fascinated by this spirit interaction aspect of shamanism.
Right.
But as our understanding evolved, the focus kind of shifted to the shaman's mastery over their own consciousness. They're not just having visions. They're actively navigating a three-tiered world.
Okay.
Imagine like an upper world, a lower world, and then our world here in the middle.
Wow, so they're like traversing these different realities? That's pretty mind-blowing. But how can we be sure that those worlds are like real and not just, happening in their minds?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, and there's no simple answer. But the anthropologist Michael Harner,
Okay.
who spent years living with and studying shamans,
Yeah.
makes a really important point. He says that the defining characteristic of shamanism is contact with an ordinarily hidden reality. So think of it like there's another layer of reality that most of us are not tuned into,
Okay.
but that shamans, through their practices, can access.
So there's this whole other reality out there, and shamans have like the keys to the door,
Yeah,
in a way.
that's a pretty wild concept.
It is.
So is that all it takes to be a shaman? Just like being able to journey?
It's definitely more nuanced than that. A good working definition of shamanism is that it's a family of traditions all sharing certain core elements.
Okay.
These elements include voluntarily entering altered states of consciousness,
Okay.
journeying to other realms, interacting with entities, and using these experiences to serve their community.
So it's not about like believing in specific things, but it's about these practices, these experiences.
Yeah.
And it's not just for personal gain. It's about helping others.
Exactly.
That actually clarifies things quite a bit.
How do we know, though, that shamans aren't just experiencing something like mental illness?
That's a great question, and it's one that a lot of people have. But remember, shamanic journeying is intentional and controlled.
Okay.
Priests lead rituals, medicine men heal, but they don't typically journey to other realms.
Right.
Mediums might experience spirit possession, but they don't actively travel like shamans do.
Interesting.
And while someone experiencing a mental health condition might have visions or hear voices, it's often involuntary and distressing,
Yeah.
which is very different from the controlled practice of a shaman.
Okay, so shamans are like these spiritual explorers venturing into this hidden reality to bring back knowledge and healing
Yeah.
to their communities.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And here's where things get even more interesting. Shamanism isn't something new. We're talking tens of thousands of years old,
Wow.
possibly predating even the earliest Stone Age.
That's incredible.
And what's really fascinating is that it's been found all over the globe,
Really?
from Siberia to the Americas to Australia. And there are these striking similarities in shamanic practices across these incredibly diverse cultures.
Wait, so shamanism was happening all over the world even before the Stone Age?
It seems that way.
That's incredible, but how is that even possible? Did they all, like, learn it from the same source? I mean, this was way before airplanes and the internet.
Right? It really makes you wonder. There are two main theories about how this happened.
Okay.
One is that shamanism emerged kind of spontaneously in different places.
Hmm.
Maybe there's something inherent in us as humans that makes us open to these kinds of experiences.
Okay.
And shamanism just arose naturally to address some fundamental need.
So maybe it's like a universal human instinct, sort of like how all humans, no matter where they're from, can learn to make music or tell stories.
Exactly. The other theory is that shamanism originated in one place and then spread outwards as people migrated.
Okay.
But here's the thing. If it spread from a single source that long ago, wouldn't you expect it to have changed more over time?
Yeah, that's true.
Languages and social practices evolved dramatically,
Right.
but shamanism stayed remarkably consistent.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
It does seem unlikely that something could stay that consistent for that long and across those distances. So maybe there is something innate in us
Yeah.
that makes these shamanic states accessible regardless of, like, where we are.
It's definitely a compelling possibility. Think about like Buddhist meditation, for example. For centuries, Buddhist practitioners have been achieving very specific states of concentration called jhanas.
Hmm.
These states are incredibly subtle and take years of training to achieve.
Yeah.
Yet the descriptions have remained remarkably consistent across different cultures and time periods.
So maybe it's like there's a part of the human mind that's wired for these types of experiences, and shamanism is just a way of tapping into it.
That's a fascinating idea.
Yeah.
And consider this, all sorts of things can induce these altered states.
Okay.
Things like isolation fatigue,
Mm-hmm.
even rhythmic drumming.
Mm.
It's not hard to imagine that people throughout history would have stumbled upon these states, found them pleasurable or healing, and then sought ways to cultivate them.
Yeah, like a hidden potential within us just waiting to be unlocked.
Exactly.
Okay, so maybe it's not like an either situation.
Right.
Maybe it's a combination of both. Some innate tendency plus like diffusion and cultural exchange.
That seems like the most likely explanation. Shamanism isn't just a cultural phenomenon.
Yeah.
It might actually be tapping into something much deeper about the human experience.
It was already blowing my mind. But here's another question. If shamanism was so widespread and powerful for so long, why did it seemingly disappear in some societies?
That's where we get into some truly fascinating anthropological research. There's an anthropologist named Michael Winkelmann
Okay.
who did a cross-cultural study of 47 societies spanning almost 4,000 years.
Wow, 47 societies over 4,000 years. That's like the ultimate deep dive.
It is a lot of data.
What did he find?
Well, his research showed that shamanism flourished primarily in simple nomadic hunter-gatherer societies.
Okay.
So think about the characteristics of those societies. Little agriculture, no social classes, limited political structures.
So in those societies, the shaman was kind of a big deal.
Absolutely. They were healers, ritualists, keepers of myths and traditions, even intermediaries between the spirit world and the human world. They held a lot of influence and played a central role in the life of the community.
Okay, so if shamans were so vital in these like simpler societies, what happened as societies became more complex?
Yeah.
Where did all the shamans go?
It's like watching this really intriguing evolutionary process.
Okay.
As societies transitioned to agriculture,
Yeah.
developed social hierarchies, and formed more complex political systems,
Mm-hmm.
the role of the shaman started to fragment.
Okay.
Instead of one person fulfilling all those different roles, you start to see the emergence of more specialized roles. Priests, sorcerers, or witches and mediums.
So it's like the shaman's responsibilities got split up. Different people took on pieces of what they used to do.
Exactly. And each of these specialists inherited certain aspects of the shaman's role.
Mm.
Priests took on like the religious and ritualistic leadership.
Okay.
Sorcerers or witches, well, they inherited the more negative aspects of magic.
Okay.
And mediums became the conduits for spirit communication.
But here's the really interesting part.
Let me guess. None of them actually do the journeying. You got it. Journeying, this defining characteristic of shamanism that was so powerful for millennia, seems to have largely vanished. It's like a piece of the puzzle is missing.
Wow, that is strange. Any ideas why that one specific practice out of all the things that shamans did disappeared?
There are some theories, but it remains a bit of a mystery. Michael Harner, the anthropologist we mentioned earlier, suggests that organized religion might have actively suppressed shamanic practices, especially journeying.
Hmm.
They might have seen it as a threat to their own authority.
Yeah, that makes sense. If you control the access to the spirit world, you control the people, right?
Right. Another possibility is that other practices like yoga and meditation emerged and provided alternative ways to achieve altered states of consciousness. Maybe journeying simply became less relevant or less appealing as other options became available.
So maybe journeying was kind of like the dial-up internet of spiritual practices, effective for its time, but eventually replaced by something faster and more efficient.
That's a great analogy.
Mm-hmm.
But the disappearance of journeying is still a puzzle. We have this incredibly potent practice that was central to shamanism for thousands of years, and then it just fades away. Why? What happened? It's definitely something to ponder.
It really is. And this is where we'll have to pick up in part 2.
Right.
We'll explore the resurgence of interest in shamanism today and what it might be telling us about ourselves and the world we live in. What do you think? Are we rediscovering something our ancestors knew all along?
That's the question, isn't it?
It's fascinating to think that shamanism, with its roots stretching back tens of thousands of years, might be making a comeback in our modern world.
Yeah.
But it also makes you wonder, what does it say about us that this ancient practice so vital to our ancestors seemed to fade away for a while? Is there something we've lost touch with?
That's a great question, and I think it really gets to the heart of why shamanism is resonating with so many people today.
Yeah.
In our modern world, we tend to be so focused on the material, the measurable, the things that we can see and touch.
Right. Anything that hints at unseen realms or non-ordinary experiences often gets dismissed as superstition, or even worse, as a sign of mental instability.
Right. It's like we've become a bit too obsessed with what we can prove scientifically.
Yeah, I think there's something to that.
But maybe there's more to reality than what we can, see under a microscope.
Exactly. Remember how our shamanic ancestors saw the world? For them, the world was teeming with spirits and unseen forces. It was a living, breathing web of energy and interconnectedness.
Yeah.
And journeying wasn't some strange fringe practice. It was a way of life, a way of accessing knowledge and healing, a way of connecting with the very fabric of reality.
Okay, so their worldview was radically different from ours.
For sure.
But did we just get smarter and leave shamanism behind? Did science somehow disprove it?
It's not that simple. I mean, science is incredibly valuable.
Oh, yeah.
But by its very nature, it focuses on what's observable and repeatable.
Right.
Shamanic experiences, on the other hand, are often very personal and subjective.
They don't easily lend themselves to the scientific method.
Right.
But that doesn't make them any less real or valuable.
Yeah, it's like trying to measure love with a ruler.
Right.
Just because you can't quantify it doesn't mean it's not a powerful force in our lives.
I love that analogy. And what's so fascinating is that even though shamanism might have gone underground for a while, it never truly disappeared. And in recent decades, we've seen this incredible resurgence, especially in the West.
It's true. Shamanism seems to be having a real moment right now. You see workshops and retreats popping up everywhere. Yeah. People experimenting with drumming and plant medicines.
Yeah.
There's definitely a growing fascination with altered states of consciousness and exploring those non-ordinary realms.
Right.
Why do you think that is? What's driving this renewed interest?
Well, I think there are a few things happening here.
Okay.
For one, there's a growing disillusionment with mainstream religion. People are searching for more experiential forms of spirituality, something that speaks to their hearts and souls, not just their minds.
So they're craving a direct experience of the sacred, not just dogma and rituals.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
And shamanism, with its emphasis on direct revelation and personal experience, offers that possibility.
Yeah.
It's not about blindly believing. It's about experiencing this interconnectedness of all things for yourself.
Well, I think it goes beyond just spiritual seeking too, right?
Yeah.
People are also becoming more aware of the limitations of Western medicine.
Absolutely.
They're looking for alternative ways to heal, especially when it comes to things like trauma, addiction, chronic pain.
Yeah, conventional medicine is amazing for many things, but it doesn't always address the deeper spiritual or emotional roots of illness.
Right.
And that's where shamanic practices can be so powerful.
I've actually heard some pretty incredible stories of people healing from deep-seated emotional wounds and physical ailments through shamanic work. It's these practices tap into something within us that can facilitate healing on a really profound level.
Yes. And while more research is definitely needed, there's a growing body of evidence suggesting that these ancient practices can have real therapeutic benefits.
Okay.
For example, studies have shown that drumming and rattling, common elements in shamanic rituals,
Yeah.
can induce altered states of consciousness that reduce stress, promote relaxation, and even change brainwave activity.
Wow. So there's actually scientific evidence to back up what shamans have known for centuries.
It is. It speaks to the enduring wisdom of shamanism. These practices have been honed and refined over thousands of years, passed down through generations of healers who understood this deep interconnectedness of mind, body, and spirit. It's like we're rediscovering this lost treasure trove of healing knowledge.
That's pretty cool. But let's be real here. There's also a lot of skepticism and fear around shamanism. Some people see it as dangerous or even crazy. How do you address those concerns?
Well, it's important to acknowledge that there are risks involved, just like with any powerful practice.
Right.
Altered states of consciousness can be intense and disorienting, especially for those who are new to them. It's crucial to approach these practices with respect, proper guidance, and a healthy dose of discernment.
So it's not about just jumping in headfirst.
Right.
You need to find experienced practitioners, understand the potential risks, and treat these traditions with the respect they deserve.
Exactly. And it's also important to remember that the resurgence of shamanism isn't just about reviving ancient practices. It's about adapting them to the modern world.
Right.
We can take those core principles of shamanism, the connection to nature,
Yeah.
the respect for the spirit world, the power of altered states, and integrate them into our modern lives.
So it's not about like going back to living in caves and hunting with spears.
Right.
We can still benefit from shamanic wisdom even while using our smartphones and driving our cars.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's about finding ways to incorporate these practices into our everyday lives.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's spending more time in nature, cultivating a sense of wonder and awe, honoring the unseen forces that shape our world. It's like rediscovering this last language, a way of seeing and experiencing the world that we've forgotten.
I love that, rediscovering a lost language. And maybe by reawakening this ancient wisdom, we can find healing and meaning and a deeper connection to ourselves and the world around us.
That's the hope, isn't it?
Yeah.
And maybe as we delve deeper into the mysteries of shamanism, we'll discover that the hidden reality that shamans have been accessing for millennia isn't so hidden after all.
Ooh, that's intriguing. But we'll have to leave that exploration for part 3 of our deep dive.
Okay, sounds good.
Join us as we continue our journey into the heart of shamanism. We're just getting started. Okay, so I'm still thinking about what you said at the end of part 2.
Yeah.
You were hinting that the hidden reality that shamans have been accessing for millennia might not be so hidden after all.
Yeah.
I have to admit that really piqued my curiosity. What did you mean by that?
Well, it's a pretty mind-blowing concept, isn't it?
Yep.
Shamans have been journeying to these other realms, interacting with spirits, bringing back knowledge and healing for their communities for thousands of years.
Right.
What if those experiences aren't just like hallucinations or metaphors,
Right.
but actual glimpses into a dimension of reality that's always present just beyond our normal perception?
Oh.
You feel like there's this whole other world existing right alongside ours,
Yeah.
and most of us are just completely oblivious to it.
I get what you're saying, but it also sounds like something out of a science fiction movie.
I know, it seems like a big leap,
Yeah.
but think about it this way.
Okay.
Throughout history, things that were once considered magical or supernatural
Yeah.
have often become completely normal as our scientific understanding evolved.
Like we used to think lightning is a sign of angry gods, and now we know it's electricity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or how people used to believe in like spontaneous generation, and now we understand the role of microorganisms.
Yeah, it's right.
We've come a long way in understanding the world around us.
Yeah,
But there are still so many mysteries that we're just beginning to grasp,
for sure.
like quantum physics
Yeah.
or the vastness of the universe.
Yeah.
What if the realms that shamans access are simply aspects of reality that we haven't developed the tools to measure or comprehend yet?
Mm.
It might be that our current scientific paradigm is just too limited
Okay.
to fully understand what's going on.
So it's not that these realms are imaginary.
Right.
It's more like we're missing the right equipment to detect them.
Yeah,
Like trying to pick up radio waves without a radio.
that's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And what's really exciting is that the resurgence of interest in shamanism, combined with this growing body of evidence about its healing potential, is starting to push those boundaries of what we consider real.
Yeah.
We're also seeing more and more research on consciousness itself through things like psychedelics and meditation, which are opening up all these new possibilities for understanding these non-ordinary experiences.
So we're in this really interesting time where the old ways of thinking are breaking down. Mm-hmm.
And something new is emerging. It's like we're on the verge of a major shift in our understanding of reality.
I think that's a great way to describe it.
Yeah,
And as we navigate this shift, it's so important to approach these topics with a balance of curiosity and critical thinking.
right.
We need to be open to new possibilities, but also avoid falling into blind belief or dogma.
So healthy skepticism along with a sense of wonder.
Exactly.
Don't just believe everything you hear, but don't be afraid to question your assumptions either.
I think that's the beauty of shamanism.
Yeah,
It's not a rigid belief system.
right.
It's a path of direct experience, personal exploration, and seeking knowledge through altered states of consciousness.
Yeah.
It encourages us to challenge our limited perspectives and connect with a deeper reality that might be right under our noses.
So what does this all mean for, like, us, the listeners?
Right.
We're not all going to become shamans, right? What can we take away from all of this?
Not everyone needs to become a shaman, but we can all learn from the wisdom that shamanism offers.
We can cultivate a deeper connection to nature, explore altered states through practices like meditation or breath work,
Yeah.
and approach the world with a sense of wonder and reverence for the unseen forces that shape our lives. It's about remembering that there's more to reality than what we can see and touch.
It's like realizing that we've been looking at the world through a tiny keyhole, and now we have the chance to swing open the door and see the bigger picture.
Exactly. And who knows what we might discover when we do?
Right?
Maybe that hidden reality that Shaman's been talking about for centuries is closer than we think, waiting to be revealed in the depths of our own consciousness and the wonders of the world around us.
That's an incredible thought to leave us with. So to all our listeners, we invite you to ponder this. Is there more to the world than meets the eye? What mysteries are you curious to explore? And what steps can you take today to deepen your connection to the unseen forces that shape your life?
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of shamanism. We hope it sparked your curiosity and inspired you to explore these fascinating ideas further. May your journey be filled with wonder, discovery, and a deeper connection to the magic of the universe.